All right, to this now. High levels of inequality and unemployment are threatening the rights of South Africans. That's according to the latest global report by Human Rights Watch. Ntokozo Khumalo has the details.
A day to commemorate the 1960 Sharpeville massacre, where a peaceful march led to 69 lives lost, including children. Over the last 30 years of democracy, the country has observed Human Rights Day as a reminder of the importance of preserving citizens' human rights. However, the Human Rights Watch World Report for 2024 warns that those rights are under threat, with women, children, and the elderly the most compromised. It finds that over the last decade, children continue to die in pit toilets despite the Department of Basic Education vowing to eradicate them by March 2022. Pit toilets remain an issue in many rural schools across the country. Violence against women and children are events that the report describes as an enduring nightmare, with 9,252 cases of rape reported between April and June last year. It highlights that women, especially those in rural areas, still find it challenging to access the justice system. The World Report finds that the elderly are also increasingly neglected, with hundreds of thousands having no access to community and home-based care and support services that they are entitled to under the Older Persons Act. It finds that government is not allocating sufficient resources for services, restricting what services non-governmental organizations can offer, and not providing enough social workers. The pensioners' grant, the main source of income for 4 million people, is also criticized for not being enough, only increasing by 5% in 2023, while food prices rose by 14%. Events around sexual orientation and gender identity are also costing citizens their rights. The report says lesbian women and transgender men in townships and rural communities are regular targets of sexual assault and murder. In March last year, the National Assembly passed the Prevention and Combating of Hate Crimes and Hate Speech Bill to create criminal offences for hate crimes and speech. The Cabinet approved the National Intervention Strategy to combat violence against LGBT people. Xenophobia also continues to dent the country's ability to protect human rights, with the report highlighting events of xenophobia continuing to plague the country. Examples include the anti-immigrant group Operation Dudula, preventing immigrant patients from accessing medical attention in Zandspruit and Cosmos City clinics. The Collective Voices Against Health Xenophobia, a consortium of civil rights organizations, activists, healthcare workers, and researchers, is working on challenging these xenophobic acts and calling on the government to uphold South Africa's human rights legislation and international obligations, recognizing the rights for health for everyone, regardless of immigration status. A rise in police brutality is also high on the agenda. At the beginning of July, members of the SAPS VIP Protection Unit attacked 3 motorists in Johannesburg. Identified as members of the Deputy President's security detail, the event raised questions about who the police protect and serve. On the economic front, the country's 2 minds on its just energy transition is one concern, with the right to a healthy environment cited as an issue. Eskom has also been fingered for using the energy crisis to not comply with the country's minimum emissions standards. The country's foreign policy is also in the spotlight, as the country was involved in several geopolitical spats. President Cyril Ramaphosa has also been criticized for being silent on human rights violations by members of the BRICS bloc, including new members with poor human rights records, including the United Arab Emirates, Saudi Arabia, and Iran. New and old concerns were raised about how South Africa's association with the bloc could erode the country's rights in the long run. These events are the same events outlined by the report in its 2023 edition, pointing to the country's failure to effectively protect its citizens' economic and human rights. For Newzroom Afrika on Channel 405, I'm Ntokozo Khumalo in Johannesburg.